So welcome everyone. I'm Prakhar, and I'm a final year BTech student pursuing information and communication technology from DIICT. It's a university in India, in Gujarat, Ahmedabad. Okay, and yeah, and also I've been in I just came to know about Plone during my Google Summer of Code programs. It's a different story with me because most of the people who are here, you just use Plone and then start developing Plones and according to your needs and according to the everything. Okay, and in my case, I never used Plone before, and I just started working on the issues and all these things. So gradually, when I was working on the project, created my whole own website, blogging website, and all this because I just started loving Plone. It was awesome. So yeah, so this is a project that I took for Google Summer of Code. It was there is a package named Portal Transform in Core Plone, and there is a transform script named SafeHTML. Okay, so I just proposed a proposal for transforming it or some porting it from on removing the CMF default from it and just you converting the whole script into LXML and things like that. So we can and we have a motive of removing CMF defaults from Plone, so it will gonna help it. So I will just describe the experience and things that I have been through the whole summer and through my development for Plone and things like that. Hope you will like it. Okay, so I will just start with how I started contributing to Plone. It was like last year I just watching through the organization that have been participating in Google Summer of Code, and I found Plone the most frequent one. I guess only 1 or 2 years in last 8 or 9 years that Plone has not been a part of Google Summer of Code. Otherwise, there will be a lot of projects and things like that on for Plone, and I was quite interested in that. And yeah, so this is the main point where I started loving Plone. It was like for a new one like me, it was quite difficult for me to how to start and where to start because I never used Plone and I'm just focusing on developing Plone from the first day, and it was quite difficult how to install and things like that. But yeah, you people on IRC really helped a lot, and it really helped me a lot because I used to put stupid questions and things like that and all these things because this was all first time for me. So really you helped me with, and I just cope up with the situations and worked for the project. And yeah, the documentation. One thing I will like to mention that the documentation is too vast. But yeah, if you know where you can find the stuff and things like that for your requirement, it's a great thing to go through it and get the knowledge of what you want and things like that. Yeah, if you start from the first page and try to read through the first page, then second page, third page, and will go to the point where you want, then it will be a nightmare for you because there are a lot of documentation and things like that. But yeah, if you know that I will find this thing there and this thing there, and if you go through it, I don't think you will need help from IRC. After that, you will just find it awesome. Yeah, and I also found it awesome. So how I started, yeah, it's like after reading some documentation and things like that, I just search for the previous year projects that have been done and things like that. So I just came across the ticket that have been created by Tom. I guess I can show you. Yep. So here is the ticket. It's not. Okay, leave it. So there is a ticket online, and I have given the link, and it was proposed by Tom and he just tried to write the whole script using SafeHTML, using LXML and removing the dependency of CMF transform. But the test cases and all things, the transform script was too old, right? So if you are trying to run this transform script with new HTML, and there have been a lot of changes in the rules and regulations of HTML also, because earlier we have some different tags for image and things like that. Now we have different closing tags and things like that. So there are few things which changed after this code and right now that I have written. So he tried to, the Tom tried to just rewrite the script and tried to run the test cases for that script, but it fails, right? Some test cases quite failed. So so I talked to Timo and Jamie for that, and we just discussed about this, and they told me, it's a good project and you can start working on this and things like that. So we discussed a lot of things about that, and earlier, yeah. So so after that, I've seen that Plone.transform is a project that have been done during GSOC 7, and it's not live right now. We don't use Plone.transform instead of Plone.safe portal transform. So he just tried to create a whole new package and things like that, and just tried to write a transform script by its own, but it was not live right now. So finally, after discussing all these things, we have three options, like either continue with the portal transform of the old safe HTML transform, either create work from Plone.transform, or either create a new package. So either messing with the old code, we just try to create a new add-on and we just try to start fresh with that. And so after so we just tried to create a new add-on, and we just tried to remove the CMF dependency from it, and you convert the whole script using LXML. So we also thought of using intelligent text and for filtering HTML or for dealing with HTMLs and things like that, but finally we concluded to create an add-on named experimental.safe HTML transform. It's there in collective. Okay, it uses LXML to filter HTML. So there are few difficulties I found when I started working with Plone, that it's not a easy thing to start with a new being who is just new and who is just in university and doesn't have any experience without creating any Plone site and things like that. So it's was tough for me. And as I already said, it's too also. If there was a time when I saw some bugs or some issues on somewhere, and it's like, oh, where should I find the code for that? Where should I find the code for that? And things like that, because I'm not used to every code and every repository that have been there in Plone core or add-ons or things like that. So it was quite difficult for me at that time. And things were alien for me for at least 1-2 months, and I'm just, as I can remember, it took me 10 to 15 days to just run the Plone on localhost, because I was just messing around in documentation and things like that, how to start with this, with that, and finally, and I wrote a blog for that also, and I will just give you the link if you want to read afterwards. So as I mentioned, that it was difficult for someone to where to start and how to figure out where to start. And so one more thing I just found difficult is like the code base of safe HTML. It uses CMF default, SGML parser and things like that, and it was quite old, so I am not used to those libraries. So before starting anything, I have to understand what that script is doing so that I can port it to somewhere else. So I know the overview, it just filters HTML, but how? What each line is doing and what the things are going on there, which libraries are doing what, and which. So it took me quite a lot of time to just understand what these old libraries are doing, and that's of no use because we don't use them now. It's like I learned the library, those type of library, what they are doing and how the code is written for those libraries, but now we don't use them because we have to port them to better ones. So it was, and so as I told it earlier also, and there are a lot of difficulties, but there are a lot of fun with Plone also. So the main thing I learned in Plone is how to start working with a team. It's like we are like on IRC, we are like a family, or so it's quite fun to work with everyone, to share our experience, to share them, oh, I'm stuck here and can you help me? So it's quite a good experience for me for the first time that I learned how to work with a team, because earlier in my university project, the project used to be of me or some of my friends or things like that. So there is no branches and things like that. And yeah, learned a lot of new things. How yeah, so after starting reading documentation and things like that, I came to know how awesome Plone is. Earlier, I don't know what Plone is. Uh, one year before, so it's quite a good thing for me. Yeah, this is the one more thing. The I would like to mention that the code analysis and the things that the check for the code is awesome in Plone, because it checks for the number of lines of the code. If your function contains a lot of lines, it just fails there and says that you just optimize the code or divide the whole function into two functions because it's getting too long. And also the pep indentation and things like that. So it's awesome. I never used that before working with Plone. So I just used to write my code and it's going long and long, and but it doesn't matter. I just matters it. What it matters was the output. So and also the names of the variables and things like that. So it's a good thing I learned here. And one more thing is that test driven development. Yeah. So I never tried it before. Tests are like I just manually run the code, and yeah, your website is running okay, it's fine. And after 5 or 6 days, some of my friends fellow come and, oh look, this is going bad, this is going bad. Oh okay, I will correct it. So that was the type of development I used to do earlier. But here, the team also focus on that only. Just first write test, then start working on code, and then check it, and then proceed forward. So yeah, this was the best part, one of the best part of learning for me. Yeah, I got to interact with the cool people. Yeah, the people are awesome here, and they teach me a lot, and I'm still learning a lot from you people on IRC. Yeah, and one more thing. So I got to know about a lot of new beers, and yeah, sometimes it's like we are in serious discussion about the topics and what to do in future and things like that. And after a long discussion of half an hour, 45 minutes, then we just shift to these things, and we need a beer break and things like that. And yeah, so we discuss about what type of beers you have in Europe and things like that. So yeah, so this is the main aim of the project, and we just have to remove the CMF default dependency from the project, and yeah, we just try to work on that. Yeah, so finally we created a new safe HTML filter, and so we just created a new add-on in collective, and there were a lot of things that are required to set up the add-on, like that setup of transform, generic setups, and all this profile registration and things like that. Yeah, so and also we have to add a control panel for browser so that user can modify it, or admin, or according to the security people can modify it. Yeah, also we have to create an interface and set up profiles for registration, deregistration of the add-on and things like that. Also, so we also have created a deregistration profile, and what it basically do is, and as proposed by Timo and Jamie, it's a better idea just to create an add-on, and whenever someone install the add-on, it will just remove the safe HTML that have currently been running on the core base, and it will just get the name. It will just install our add-on, and in place of that, so that someone is using our add-on, so it will be normal for him, and just it will be no other thing, just to click on the install button and it will work fine. So yeah, so we started with registration and automatic registration and deregistration of the, and we write functions for that. And the registration of safe HTML on add-on. And yeah, so it's like just you install the add-on, you will get the new safe HTML that we have written the script. It will start running on that, and the old safe HTML, it will just end there, and no, the code will not use that. Okay, I will explain how that works in code also again in next slides. Okay, we also deregistered the old safe HTML from portal transform. So it's like for the developer's perspective, it's like we are just deregistering the old transform script and we are just placing our new transform script at that place. And for user perspective, it will be just like, yeah, it's from control panel, add the add-on and it will just work fine for them. So they don't have to think a lot about that, okay, we are doing it, what will happen and things like that. You just click on that button, that old transform script will stop working and new transform script will start working for that. Yeah, so this is the sort of repetition. Yeah, so these are the code for registering the profile, and we just created a directory for default in the profile and use generic setups for that. And this is the code for deregistering the profile, and gradually it works fine. Okay. So so it was an incident when I was working in summer. So it was a time when CMF Plone 5.0 dev was just released. Okay. So it was like at one night I just worked with my project and just ran all the test cases and things like that, and it works fine. Next morning I woke up and it was like, what is going on, dude? I just test cases are failing, and what I have done in night, or someone touched my laptop or things like that. I don't know what is going on. And so it was really a it was really a scary moment for me, that dude, at night it was going okay and I don't have a beer or things like that, so I can I was normal, and still what not able to detect where the problem is, because so not able to detect because I also there in Travis, when I saw the logs, it was showing that CMF Plone version is using Plone 5.0 or something like that, and I have pinned it for 4. The previous version. Okay, so I was not able to detect. I already have pinned it there, and still it is using the latest version. Why? Because so so this was the okay. So here that I can show you it's quite small, but yeah. So it's showing that 4 product is using CMF Plone of 5.0 dev. Okay. So it's still I have the I have the setup for this, and it was 4.3.8. Still it's using 5 point something like that. So finally I discussed it over IRC and things like that, and finally after 2 or 3 days I got a reply. I came to know about that. Yeah, it was Plone app widgets that are using that I have not pinned earlier, and it was using CMF Plone, and it extract the latest version of the Plone. Okay, so that was the problem. In Travis, it was showing that CMF your project is using the latest version of CMF Plone, and I don't know how, because I have pinned it, but still. So after lately we came to know about Plone app widgets are using the latest version of CMF. So finally I have to pin that also, and luckily after that things work fine for me. So after registering and deregistering the add-on, the next thing is to get a control panel for the add-on. And there were 2 ways to create a control panel. Either we just work with the old control panel that have been there in Portal Transform, or either we create a new for our add-on. So finally we just created a new add-on for our Save HTML transform, and we created a new control panel for this add-on. And so I choose the second way. Okay. Yeah, so now after when we have decided we have to create a new control panel for the add-on, we have to just register the control panel and things like that. Oh yeah, so this is the code for registering or generic registering the control panel for a browser page at configuration.html. And so it was just so for registering control panel for the add-on, it was a code. Okay, and after that, we can see that we added permissions for experimental filtering and things like that. So I have to add permissions also. Oh, it's flowing code. Yeah, so we also added permissions for the control panel, and after that, it works fine. Yeah. So finally the transform. So after setting the whole add-on and things like that, I have to work mainly on the transform. This is the main thing that I have proposed for the proposal. So I just used LXML for the transform, and yeah, so just remove the CMF default dependencies from the whole transform script. And yeah, it's what it's doing is it's like it's takes the HTML page and it's just convert the whole HTML page in a tree structure. It's like HTML as a parent, then the tags, and then flow. It's like that. So what LXML, what I do is I use the cleaner class and for creating filter for that. Okay, so what it's do is it's just iterate over each and every node of the tree and things like that, and just it checks its valid tag or its nested tags, or what we have to do. We have to remove it, or we have to keep the child of that tag, or we have to completely remove the tags and things like that. And after that, it produces the result. Okay, so the question is why we have to do this, and the main thing is to remove the dependencies and to make the filter faster, because the code base for Safe HTML, old Safe HTML was quite old and it's quite slow and things like that. And it's like if you give new, if it filters the HTML according to the previous conventions that have been there when the filter was created. And to optimize the filter, we use CMF. Okay, so after that it comes testing part of the transform, and we just tried unit test for the transform. We just use the sample HTML documents, few lines for HTML, the whole documents, and we just tried to work it for the script and check the outputs if it's coming correctly or not. We just write unit test for that. We also write the robot test and integration test for the control panel and things like that. And yes, the result, and the test case pass. Finally, yeah. So this is the result of unit tests, and yeah. So this was the one part of the project, and other thing is we have a text editor, TinyMCE, and this also use Safe HTML filters for. So TinyMCE works for client side, and we have our script on server side, right? So we just have to integrate both the things so that whenever user put their HTML thing in TinyMCE, it get filter according to our script if user wants this. So yeah, so I just came to know that get tool by name is a portal that TinyMCE uses to detect the HTML. Okay, the transform script Safe HTML. So it's like that the script is used by the name. So earlier we tried to put the name of the script as experimental Safe HTML or exp Safe HTML, and later when I started working on TinyMCE, so I just changed the name to Safe HTML, because for TinyMCE it will be like it needs the Safe HTML transform, nothing else. And from where it comes, it doesn't matter to it. So either it comes from the portal transform or it comes from the new add-on. So it doesn't matter for the Safe HTML for that. So finally we decided to rename the transform to our Safe HTML. So we just change so it's for TinyMCE, it's like, yeah, it's using Safe HTML. So it doesn't matter, it's using that CMF default dependency Safe HTML or our new Safe HTML using LXML or things like that. So yeah, so after that, I just tried to import the things, and yeah, I just tried to import the things for new Plone site, Plone instance, and these are the results that everything is imported correctly, and I just showed them to mentors and they were quite happy with that. Okay. Okay, so one more thing, the project is not completely done yet now, because there is one thing left. There are testers, there are script, and everything is running. There is control panel, but the integration of control panel and the script is still left there. it's like we can't modify the script's input or modify the script's parameters through the user interface. I just change the script from code and try to run it for different attributes and things like that. But yeah, so the integration of that script and the control panel is still left, and hopefully I will do it in this month or okay. And yeah, it was a great summer for me. I learned a lot of things. So the main thing I learned is how to work with test-driven development, how to develop things using writing tests, so that after you change something in the script and you came to know, I'm doing something wrong. If you not have written some test or something like that, it's like you just change it and you don't know if you are doing correctly or not. You will get output anyway from things, but the test, what I felt like test just keep you on track. What the motivation of your project, and now what you are changing, and you are going side from the track, or you are on the track, or things like that. Yeah, so it's like I got help from many people on IRC, and Timo and Jamie were always there. So they just guide me how to do it. I just put it, how to do it, how to set up configuration files, and how to do this, and each and everything. They just point me to there and just try to teach me through the GitHub commits and things like that. And also, yeah, it's quite it's not that I just got connected with that experimental safe HTML transform. I also got through the mailing list, and I also used to be updated with the things that are going on for the whole Plone, and what things are going. There are some issues, there are some discussion and things like that. So it's really a nice thing for me to learn. And yeah, this is also a main thing that I got to learn at the initial state. When I started working with Plone, it's like I got a lot of errors, and it's like I just copy the error log and give it to Timo. Dude, see this, what's going on? I can't understand. So, and whenever I don't read the logs, it's like, oh shit, I got into trouble. I should ask him where I'm getting the errors, and I can't help myself. Then he and Jamie just told me that just read the lines that have been written in the logs. You will find this. Yeah, you are missing this. You are missing this library. You are missing this. You imported wrong things and things like that. And they have been written there in a single line or 2 lines, but it's like huge 200 line logs, and I'm like, oh shit, man, testers are failing, and what should I do now? So this was the main thing. And yeah, so it's like I started in January or Feb, I guess. Yeah, in Feb I started with Timo created a new add-on for me, and I just started messing with the add-on, and test cases are failing, and I'm doing whatever I like. But yeah, there are a lot of things that I learned, and if I have not keep blogging these things or write it down somewhere, it would be quite difficult for me, because when the Plone 5 dev is released, I got my test cases breaking and all these things. So I have to create few new things for correcting the issues. So what I did is I just go through the blogs that have been written earlier, how I started, and what are the issues that I faced earlier. Because if I have not written them, and if I have not copied them somewhere else, because then it will again, I will be at the same situation. Oh, again I'm stuck at that place. So what's the point of getting knowledge from IRC or things like that? You can't remember the things that have been done in five months back, and some minute things like you just missed this, and there are a lot of things like that in Plone. So yeah, it really helps me. And how to work with timeline, that's the main thing I learned, because we have a timeline for Google Summer of Code. And yeah, it's like for last 1 week I'm continuously on IRC and just disturbing those people. Dude, I'm not able to finish it. We have a timeline, and I have to make it complete so that I can pass the evaluation and things like that. So it was fun. And plan, I have not mentioned one plan. It's like, yeah, I just started loving Plone. So I will be in contact with Plone, and I will just try to develop a lot of more things. First of all, I will just finish the project that I took, and it's still incomplete, as I said earlier. So first thing will be that, and then I will just try to create more websites on Plone and just develop things that I can do, and yeah, things like that. Also, yeah, but this is a thing that I think is good right now. I'm a lot to learn, a lot to code, and a lot to develop. So this is all from my side. So this was the thing that I did in last 5 or 6 months. Yeah, it's a quite small project, but for a newbie, it's quite huge for me because I just didn't do a lot of things. It's like they taught in the 2-day training how to create a add-on and things like that. I just did an extra thing of adding a script. So it was almost 15 to 20 or let's check 1 month's project, but it took me 5 months. But yeah, I'm satisfied with it because things were totally new for me. And at starting, I used to ask these sort of questions also. What are viewlets and what are portlets? So it's like I'm using them, but I don't know what they are. And yeah, so that was quite interesting for me this summer. So I just said thank you. So
look at it that way. I've been using Plone and developing on Plone for 10 years. Yeah, for 10 years. And I didn't contribute anything yet to the core. And you've been here for 5 months and you already did something really useful. So thank you. Wonderful.
Thanks.
Nice.
I just wanted to say that when I did my Google Summer of Code, I already had 4 years of experience with Plone. I had my my master's degree in computer science, and it took me, I think, in the end, 1 year to pass the alpha stage of my project, and then another year to finish it. Okay. So I think you're doing good. And I have a question. We all know that Plone has a pretty steep learning curve, right?
Yeah.
And I can imagine that it's hard for a student that does not know much about Plone or maybe even Python to get up to speed, right? And we see that all the time during Google Summer of Code project. What do you think could we improve to make it easier for Google Summer of Code students to get up to speed to work with Plone? Where do you see like room for improvements in, like, say, documentation or in like help that you could get from people?
Yeah, okay. The one thing I feel is like the awareness of about Plone especially I can talk about India. So it's like whenever you try to create some CMF, they use Joomla and things like that. They never talk about Plone. And earlier when I started, it was like, what is this? I don't know about this and things like that. So most of the people in India I'm not saying that no one use Plone. There are organizations that are using Plone and it's working fine there. But yeah, there are most of the people, at least at university level, no one's used Plone or that much heavy frameworks for creating websites and things like that. So yeah, so it's like so, and also to start with Plone, because you told you have been work for Plone earlier and then you started developing and you took a project. And for students for university, if they have not worked for Plone, then it's need patience and things like that to just know what things are going on and how to edit it and how to create websites and things like that. So developing is a later thing. So first to know about Plone. So I just want to say that if there will be more awareness and if we start using Plone at student level and university, because most of the universities I've seen here use Plone as their website, and we used to still stuck with WordPress. So there you can find a lot of WordPress developers in my university, but no Plone developers like that, and no one think about that, setting up that much thing to create. But it's a great thing. It's a great functionality that we provide through Plone, but yeah, people think that they just quickly finish this and create 2 pages and things like that. So that's the main thing. I think we can just create more awareness about Plone at student level. Yeah, I know there are people who have some clients or things like that in India that they are developing Plone, but at student level it's quite difficult for students to come up with the Plone. So.
You did the training with me in
Yeah.
developing Plone. Did you use the training in Summer of Code, or did you just find it here?
No. That was the main drawback I felt I did during starting developing in Plone. I never took any training or things like that. I just started looking for bugs and things like that, because I will say most of the open source organization I have tried, because I was looking for a lot of open source organization, and what the tradition there was, just look for the bugs. If you find some code base that is related to bug, just correct it, create a pull request, and you are selected, things like that. But here it's like a family working for something. So yeah, so it takes, it's not like you just you just correct a bug or you just improve a ticket or and go away and things like that. So you need to know a lot of things and things like that. So that is the main thing I found myself, that I should have done it before. The 2-day experience, last 2 day in training was so awesome that I learned a lot of things, more things that I have learned in 5 months than in these 2 days. So I think that's a great training, and yeah, really a nice experience.
So maybe this helps with the previous question for Google Summer of Code. Use the training. It's wonderful.
You mentioned in your talk that there's a portion of this that remains yet to be done. Are you going to stay around for the sprints over the weekend?
Yeah, I will be here for 1 day,
and
I have to catch a flight on early in the morning on Sunday. So I will just mess up with that on Saturday.
Would you consider taking on anybody else to work with you?
I don't know.
And help you
It's
with
open
things?
if anyone wants. So
Yeah.
I will be glad to work with them. Otherwise, anyway, I'm just gonna post questions on IRC and GitHub. So anyway, someone has
just
to
walk over and ask him. He's standing right there.
Yeah. He's not here. Otherwise, that have to.
There you go. Are there any more questions?
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much,
you.
Prakhar.
Yeah.